Greetings. Hello. I'm Cindy Dean. I'm on the Cindy Dean music page, and I'm here on Horn Talk. Tips, licks, tricks. So if you're here, I'm using StreamYard today, and in order for them to see you comment, you have to give them permission. So you have to go to streamyard.com/Facebook, let them know that it's okay to comment. So today I'm talking about a couple things mostly related to mouthpiece placement for playing horn, French horn. Okay, so a lot of times there's some amazing music programs and band directors out there, and they encourage people to play horn or switch to horn if they don't have enough horns, which is really great and amazing. It makes their ensemble more balanced and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about some of that and switching to horn and what that means. So if you're here, let me know you're here. Say hello. Thanks for tuning in. And if you're watching on the replay, say hello, like, share, hearts. It helps Facebook recognize that this is something that you watched and like, and share it with more people around the world, the Book of the Faces, at least. And if you're watching on the replay or on the replay on Tube of the U or something, same thing, just let me know that you're here. Feel free to comment, give your feedback. There's lots of, horn players that teach, and this is, if you are a teacher and a horn player, you probably come across some of these situations, and you might have your own awesome tips, so feel free. You might be a band director suggesting that, hey, we need X number of horns, who wants to play? We lost our horn section, we need some more, who wants to switch? And those are great. You might be a parent of one of those kids who just switched to horn, or maybe is starting new, fresh. And all of those scenarios are common, normal. And when you switch to an instrument like French horn, there's just a little bit more to it that sometimes, band directors obviously can't know everything. And especially if their main instrument isn't brass, although they have to learn a little bit of everything all the time. So hats off to you guys because you do an amazing job, especially right now while we're all online, right? For most of us still. So at least where we are here in Southern California, where we are, there's, they're talking about going back, but, our pandemic numbers are going up, unfortunately. So there's no end in sight at the moment. Hopefully that'll change. But when you're starting somebody out on horn, one of the big things is starting with an appropriate embouchure to get started in the right way. And there's so many things with horn. But, I've had quite a few students switch to horn from other instruments over the years, either as somebody that's played another instrument and for a few years, or somebody that's just starting out, or even just playing another instrument for a year because maybe the program they were in doesn't start people on horn. That's a common one. So a common switch seems to be other brass instruments, particularly trumpet. And those are always really great switches, but the embouchure is a little bit different on horn. So, and now if you're just picking horn, what's going to make you successful? We're going to talk about that. So there's a couple things. Also, so if you're tuning in, just for a second here, let me know you're here. Go to streamyard.com/Facebook. Let them know that you give them your name out so you can comment below. And then also let me know if you have anything to add. Because as always, I know there's plenty of other people that have amazing tips, and I might not cover everything here today in this short time that we have for the live, but let's get started. So if you haven't seen me before, I'm Cindy Dean Music Page, and Fridays is Horn Talk, tips, licks, and tricks. Today we're discussing the horn embouchure, switching, how it's a little different when you're switching from another instrument, and what are some criteria to make you successful doing this on horn, playing horn, if you're switching from another instrument. So let's get started. One of the main things, if you're picking out an instrument and you really want to play horn, I encourage it no matter what. Because for one thing, now, there's one thing that always helps, and this is always going to make it easier if you want to play horn. If you can sing a tune, like say Happy Birthday, or like a children's song or something, and you can stay on pitch and on key, chances are no problem with horn. You're going to be great. That means you have a good ear and so forth, and you can hear pitch and match pitch. Then that's amazing. It'll be so much easier for you on horn. But there are other examples of kids and adults alike who maybe can't sing on key perfectly. Maybe they can whistle, or maybe they can. It's not even a whistle. It's like blowing air and a pitch, kind of. It's like between blowing and whistling kind of thing. Something like that. If that's on pitch, great. Even if you can't do those, it's not impossible for you to learn horn. It just might be that you have to work harder. And I've had those students too. And the reason I bring this up is because even as a singer and singing, so I don't know about you, if you're a musician or have been a musician or studied music in school at all, in college and whatnot. When I was in conservatory in undergrad, even if you weren't a singer, you had to take choir, you had to pass, you had to be able to sing on key. Well, so there were some music majors that were like music business and other focuses that weren't necessarily performance related. And they couldn't carry a tune to sing. But they had to do this in order to pass. And I actually witnessed people being taught who sang originally in monotone learn how to sing. So it is not impossible. That's one thing. So if that's the case, then it's obviously possible to still learn an instrument and be able to play, right? Even if it's a brass instrument, even if it's horn. Now, you might disagree with me, but I've had plenty of students who can't sing perfectly on pitch, and they still can learn to play horn. It might just be that they work a little bit harder. You have to want to do this, first of all, because horn is not like piano, right? You don't just, okay, this is the note and you play it. Obviously, there's muscle memory. There are hearing and ears involved, right? So, if you're really wanting to learn it, even if you can't perfectly carry a pitch, a tune, perfectly match pitch always, but maybe some of the time, you still can do it. You still can be taught, and you still can end up being successful on horn. Because like I said, there's been people that have learned to sing who couldn't originally sing, who sang in a monotone. It's amazing. And I witnessed this firsthand. So if you want to play, it's not a be-all, end-all if you can't sing on key immediately when you first are asked to do something, especially if you haven't sung ever before. So there's other issues, but it always makes it easier if you can and you do have that like immediateness to it. So if you're a music teacher looking for kids to be successful, of course, that's one of the things you want to look for, right? Is that, oh, can they sing like maybe Happy Birthday or something? Are they staying on key, on pitch? That's always a good one. In fact, I think it was one of my music teacher friends that mentioned that to me. And of course, it made perfect sense, right? So other things are when you play a brass instrument and you're coming and you're switching to horn, you have to realize that the mouthpiece is different, right? So actually, I don't know if I have a trumpet one right now. I do a trumpet one because I have a couple trumpets. So trumpet, horn, right? Look, they're not the same shape. The trumpet, trombone, tuba, they're cylindrical shaped mouthpieces, cylinder shaped. Horn is not, it's conical, cone shaped. And the opening is smaller. This part is thinner. This is a lot thicker. Now, this is shallower and this is deeper. I happen to have a deeper mouthpiece than some people. But in any event, it's not the same shape. And the range that horn covers is a lot wider, making where you put the mouthpiece important. And as it is on trumpet and other instruments that are brass. Now, when you play trumpet, it's more of a half and half, or opposite of how horn sits. There's two ways, more half and half or more lower lip. I've heard there's two ways that people teach it, that people play it. It's more frequent with horn that is not the case. With horn, it is more upper lip than lower lip. It is more 2/3 upper, 1/3 lower. Now, it's not exact because everybody's teeth and mouth and lips are different. So now there's one thing I've seen people do with horn in particular, and this doesn't work for me because my lips aren't that shape. And I don't have particularly extremely thick lips, but I don't have the thinnest lips on the planet either. So it doesn't work for me. But one of the things I've seen people teach is they put the bottom of the mouthpiece on the bottom lip and you go up. Now, if I do that, it's too low for me. So that doesn't work for me. So I don't really characterize that as a rule of thumb. It's more like finding the balance and finding more upper lip. And that's important, is the placement of it, because if it's too low, you're going to have range issues on either ends of the spectrum for horn. And I've seen it. I taught a lot of people that switched. I've taught a lot of beginners. And oftentimes you will find a good spot for the mouthpiece, but it's not uncommon for people to come in and it to be placed too low. It's not uncommon for people to start playing because they don't know any better. And then they're wondering why they're having trouble with their range. It's once they start the shift to fix it, to maybe it might be just a little tiny sliver of a change, just a little bit. And it makes a huge difference. And if you need any resources, there's a couple of different Philip Farkas books. He's got one with just brass playing embouchure pictures from all the horn and trumpet and whatnot. The Art of Horn Playing has only horn embouchures. Hi, buddy.
Can I go to the horn show? I had one.
Yes.
Wait, are you teaching?
I'm doing a live. Say hi.
Hola.
My son wants treats. Okay. Anyways, I guess he texted me before he came up here. Anyways, the basics being a little bit of experimentation and a little help from somebody that's taught before that knows enough to help you out with this. And one of the tips and tricks I get my students to do when they're working on it, usually it's that they need to move the mouthpiece up. Usually it ends up being too low if they've switched from another brass instrument. It's just common. It's just how it is. And part of it, I think, has to do with the rim being so different, you know? So I can't find, I have a mouthpiece visualizer where it's just this with a stick. It's the rim with the, and I've just moved into my studio not that long ago, and I'm still not organized, as you can probably tell. But it gives you I'm more upper lip, but my lip and my teeth are different than somebody else's. So somebody else's placement might be slightly different. I'm not down here. I'm not right here. I end up being, most of the time you end up being slightly above your top lip. Now, everybody's lip is different. And again, it's not set in stone. But the rule of thumb is 2/3 upper for French horn, 1/3 lower. Now, to begin the note, one of the things I learned is to begin the word beauty. Beau, beau, beau. Now, if you're a horn player and you've gotten to go into Andrew Bain's warm-ups sessions he's been doing since the summer, he teaches this warm-up exercise, which is excellent. And it's that same principle. It's starting the note with the air and using the PU or POO, poo, poo attack. So your lips are together. Poo. And you let your air and the vibration start the pitch so that you get used to letting your air move and your embouchure work. And now, so if I was doing the old school way where I've heard people start down here, that's not going to work for me. So I don't teach that way. But, I hadn't ever learned that because I think whoever was teaching me knew that wasn't going to work for me. And the only time I've had to relearn twice. I've had to relearn myself twice. Once when I got my braces off. Well, probably when I got my braces on, but that doesn't really count. When I got my braces off, I had to relearn. That's what I remember. I don't remember some of it from when I first started. I remember it when I had to relearn. And I did relearn. And I got my braces off and we had to start all over and to start from scratch. And she's like, I couldn't get anything to work. And she's like, okay, say beauty. Now just say beau, beau, beau. And there's the funny buzz. And I knew where to put my mouthpiece at that point. I wasn't learning on positioning at that point, but it did feel different. And it was slightly different because you don't have the metal in the way, right? So I relearned then. And then there was another time when I was playing and I had smacked my tooth or something on a mug or something. I think it was when I lived in Seattle and I was freezing. I was always cold during the winter. And it didn't do anything to my tooth other than just make it it needed a little smoothing out. But for some reason I had played a couple concerts. I'd done some chamber music. I think I was when I was doing the Brahms trio. I was playing one of the art museums for Ladies Musical Club, and I was playing with some amazing musicians, and one of whom plays violin in Seattle Symphony. And the concert was fine and everything was fine, but like I was playing and because I had this little not smooth edge now on my tooth, it like changed how I was playing, and my lip was a little bit swollen for a little while. And then I felt like I couldn't play anything. And I had the tooth smoothed out, but then I like couldn't play anything, or nothing was working quite right. And eventually everything was working, and some of it was in my head, but I was working with some amazing musicians and teachers. And I think I was working with Sue Carroll, and I believe she's not playing anymore, but in the Seattle Symphony, but she was third horn at the time. And then she told me to go play for Chris Olka, who was the tuba player there at the time. He's also elsewhere. And he was just like, just play musically. And I'm like, oh, duh, sing. So I was doing everything right. But in my head, I didn't think I could do it just because I had this little minor thing happen. And so it wasn't like I was relearning from scratch, but it was just letting myself use air and letting myself believe I could do it. So I still take that to myself as that I had to relearn twice, right? So anybody can switch to horn. Anybody can learn to fix their embouchure. I have plenty of students. I tell my students, well, nowadays there's all these devices and you can turn on your computer or your phone or your iPad and picture and look into yourself there if you don't have a mirror and watch yourself. And when they're doing warm-up exercises that they don't need to look at the music for or something, to check in, and if they're having a problem like that they need to make even if it's a very slight shift upwards because they've switched from another instrument, or maybe they just weren't given any instruction at the time, they can tell when it's in the right place, because all of a sudden things work that weren't working before. That's one thing. And the second thing is they can physically see it, and then they know how it feels because they're looking at themselves in the device or the mirror. So I'm like, buy a 99-cent mirror and stick it on your music stand, or turn on your device and so you can see, or sit in front of a mirror if you have one at home. And, not everybody has one where they can go practice. So there's other ways to do it, but once they start doing that, it does take time, because old habits die hard. That's just, it's a saying that kind of lives up to reality from time to time. And so you have to check in. I have things I do that I used to do, and every once in a while when I'm not paying attention or I'm tired or whatever, and I'll slip back into them. So I just tell them to check in when they warm up. Check in every day. If something's not working, check in. If they did make a shift, something isn't working, they're not playing. Okay, first of all, see if you can fix it. See if you can tell what you're doing wrong. Now, if that's still not working, look in the mirror or whatever you can look in device, and check in with yourself and see, oh, did I shift down a little bit? Because sometimes that is the case. So, hey, if you're watching, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you stopping in. If you're watched till the very end, you're super duper awesome. And I want you to just let me know you're here. You might need to go to streamyard.com/Facebook and give permission to them so you can comment. But you definitely can like, you definitely can give some love, you definitely can share. There's the biggest issue with setup is just not knowing what you're supposed to do. I mean, that's pretty common, because not every band director is expert at every instrument. And a lot of times that's why many of them have coaches. Many of them suggest private lessons. And I mean, this is for any instrument, private lessons is going to help you play the most efficiently in the best way, right? But embouchure is where this is like where we do everything with the brass instrument. The actual instrument is just the megaphone for what we're doing a lot of in here. And while a lot of it is air related, we also have to buzz to make the sound for this. So you're going to be able to buzz even if your mouthpiece is in a not quite the right setup, position, placement. But when it is in the right placement, your range will expand and certain things will become easier and smoother. And there's no way that everybody is going to know this without somebody helping them or telling them. And the minute I see, and I don't like go around saying you have to switch your embouchure. That's just not the case most of the time. But there are instances where kids were playing and maybe they had help, but maybe it wasn't like the best person that knew everything. Like maybe another brass instrument teacher teaching them horn, and that's all good and fine, but they weren't catching this little thing. And so now I caught it because I'm working with them, and it might be just the smallest thing. And then all of a sudden they have a range, and it's amazing. And it's just knowing that, oh, it's a little low. Try shifting it up a hair. Now play that again. And then when it works, it's great, you know, and they're like, oh yeah. And then they want to do it again. And then they want to check in again. And then they do want to check in, and they do want to keep paying attention because they're all of a sudden they can do these things that were hard before. And so that's the check. I mean, it's really like, and so it's a lot of it. It's like the warm-ups that are range building, the warm-ups that are flexibility exercises and those kind of things. That's when you can really tell like what's working or not. So it's not necessarily the complete beginner from scratch that can't play anything yet that you're going to be able to tell always. But if you can start them kind of like getting the basic in the right basic place, and if they're being able to buzz, sing, buzz, put in the horn, play. So those are 3 things. But even if you can't sing it, hum it, half whistle. I don't know if you can hear that. Something like that, because then play it, whatever it is they're playing. If it's happy birthday, something else, it doesn't matter. That kind of thing, because then they hear it, it's in their ear, they buzz it. And so on. Now you need more air when you're using this without your instrument. It's a different resistance and all that stuff. And there's all kinds of things like you can help. And I have 2 versions of this. It's like a burp buzz extension resistance piece. This actually, I have one that goes in between the lead pipe and the mouthpiece. This actually clips on the side, and you can leave it there and then go from horn to burp. But anyways, so you can adjust. There's holes. Anyway, so this is just like another tool to use for learning to focus on getting the best efficiency with playing in your buzz and your embouchure. There's all kinds of stuff you can do, but that's about it. If you have any questions for me and you're watching now or on the replay, let me know below. I'll get back to you, even if you watch later. And I'm probably going to load this to my Tube of the U page. And if you're watching there, same thing. Go ahead and ask me a question or comment below, and I'll check in with you later. You don't have to be watching live right now, but if you do, I appreciate you stopping in. I hope you have a fabulous day. I hope that was helpful for you. If it was, I would love it that you liked, heart, shared, sprinkled it amongst your friends that you think might benefit from it. The biggest thing I want to say is that if you're not sure, you get somebody to work with you that can help you. But I also want to point out that even though like one person might have more success and be easily successful, that doesn't mean that somebody that has the drive, the love, and the, focus to learn it, and even if it's a little bit more of a challenge, because there's all kinds of ways to learn. There's all kinds of ways to teach and people to teach you. And there might be somebody that doesn't want to teach someone that it's, doesn't meet certain criteria, but that's not the case for everybody. And honestly, I seem to be able to get these challenges and help people. And being successful is that's a view that you define what that is to you, because success doesn't mean you have to be a music major, a professional. Success could just be that you want to learn to play this instrument, you want to play it well, you want to be able to play with others, and that can be enough. And it could be the joy. It's for the joy anyways, right? I mean, whether you're not a professional or you are, it makes no difference. Why would we do it if we didn't love it, right? So anything to learn to make it easier for yourself, get help. I mean, even professionals have other people help them. You work with different people at different stages over your life. It's lifetime learning, right? Lifetime learning. We're lifetime students. And even teaching, we learn as we teach. We learn different things that work for different types of people. Sometimes there might be somebody that I don't think I'm getting through. Maybe I can't help them. Maybe they need to work with somebody else. Or maybe they're working with somebody else and then they hear you say the same thing in a different way. And all of a sudden it goes, oh, I get it now. And that's happened to me at like 1,000 times. Just like somebody says something and then later on I hear it somewhere else and it's like, oh, that's it. That's what they meant. That's how that works. And it could be something simple just to do with where to put your mouthpiece or how to make it work or how to use your air, or it doesn't matter. So if you don't play an instrument, I hope you're listening to beautiful music that gives you joy. If you do play an instrument, I hope you are inspired to pick it up today. And if you have any questions about how this all works, please feel free to give me a note below or private message me however you feel comfortable. I'll be happy to get back to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Cindy Dean Music, here on Friday Horn Talks, tips, licks, and tricks. See if I can talk and say that 10 times fast. All right, have a fabulous day. Bye.